Welcome, listeners. This is Ivan Franklin Rose. Last week, we did a podcast on the best foods to eat for anxiety, stress, and depression. This week is the one about the worst foods for anxiety, stress, and depression. Now, those mental challenges are not easy to deal with, but all we can do here is give you information about what might help and what might not help, and let you be the judge of whether you have the willpower to go through with it and cut out some of these foods that we're going to discuss right now. But just so you know, this is all information that could help you tremendously in your mental challenges. So first we'll start with an article by Betty Gold, who's an editor for Real Simple magazine, on April 13th, 23, and fact-checked by Danielle Slaughter. She says, between regular workloads, busy school semesters, financial stress, and just trying to get dinner on the table, it's easy to feel stressed regularly and avoid doing anything to get it back under control. While there are several things you can do to try to manage stress on a regular basis, you might not realize the foods you eat or don't eat enough of can play a large role in the state of your mental health. There are tons of nourishing foods and drinks that support mood regulation and anxiety and stress reduction, especially those high in gut-healthy probiotics. You'd be surprised just how closely connected mental health and gut health are. But there are also certain foods that can exacerbate worry, distress, and overall mood dips and our ability to handle incoming challenges and heavy feelings. These options are often tasty and convenient, but high in calories and low in nutrients, inflammatory to our systems, and disruptive to gut health, metabolic health, and more. For a better sense of what not to eat, at least not in excess, when trying to feel better, Kristen Kirkpatrick, MS-RDN, shares some of the worst foods for anxiety and mood. First is fast food and junk food. A 2019 study found that poor quality diet was linked to poor mental health, regardless of factors such as gender, age, education, marital status, and income level. The study showed that fried foods, food high in added sugar, and refined grains, which are stripped of the natural fiber, were all associated with increases in depression. Another early study published in 2013 found that individuals who consume fast food are more likely to develop depression. Number 2, low-fiber foods. Low-fiber diets, lacking in plant foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, are associated with poor gut health. In turn, gut health is highly correlated with mental health outcomes. Multiple studies show that improvements in gut health through nutrition may help to improve overall gut health and can positively impact anxiety and depression. Number 3 is alcohol. A 2013 study found that heavy drinkers had a rewiring of brain activity that made them more likely to have anxiety. Other studies in teens found that binge drinking increased future occurrence of depression and anxiety. Ever heard of hangxiety? Like being hangry, but with alcohol? That's because drinking seems to spark a bit of anxiety in most people and a lot of anxiety in others. Alcohol takes a toll on our systems in several ways. Primarily, it's very dehydrating, which can absolutely affect your mood and disrupt your metabolism, which can then further impact your mood as your body tries to regain balance. Like a never-ending circle there. According to American Addiction Centers, alcohol can induce panic because of its effect on GABA, a chemical that normally has a relaxing effect. Mild amounts of alcohol can stimulate GABA and cause feelings of relaxation, but heavy drinking can deplete GABA, causing increased tension and feelings of panic. GABA is one of those brain foods that I recommended in my nutrition segment in episode 11. So it's a very important ingredient. You don't want to deplete it. So look, people drink socially, we understand that. But there's a level of drinking which can bring about the opposite of what you're trying to affect. You don't want to cause anxiety or or depression because you're drinking. All right. Number 4 is high saturated fat foods. It's important to note that most of the research linking high-fat diets to depression and anxiety has been conducted on mice. That said, there's a fair amount of convincing evidence that food high in unhealthy saturated fats, like fatty cuts of beef and pork, lard, heavy cream, butter, cheese, should be enjoyed in moderation to keep anxiety at bay. Plus, many fatty foods fall into these other categories listed above, low in fiber, high in added sugars, and/or sodium and ultra-processed. A 2015 animal study found that body weight and blood sugar changes caused by a high-fat diet. It caused changes in the brain that increased symptoms of anxiety and depression. Another animal study published in 2017 found that pregnant primates that consumed a high-fat diet were more likely to produce offspring that developed depression and anxiety. Very interesting. And number 5, high sugar foods. For how tasty it can be, sugar can play a surprisingly negative role in your mood and mental health. A 2019 study examining depression during the winter months found that consumption of sugar exacerbated depressive symptoms by increasing inflammation in the brain. This finding correlates with several other studies linking excess sugar, inflammation, and mood disorders. Now, that's the end of her first article, but Betty also wrote an article in realsimple.com on how sugar affects your mood and what you can do about it. Now, this is August 28th, 23. The other article was in April, so this is a little while later. It was medically reviewed by Samina Ahmed Jagouri, who's a sleep psychologist with expertise in chronic illness management, pain management, and mood and anxiety difficulties that impact physical health and wellness. And it's fact-checked by Isaac Winter, ensuring the accuracy of the content. I always want to give you backup as where this came from. With our mental health being tested over the past few years, it's understandable that our emotions may have felt more up and down recently. In times of stress, we typically reach for sugary, feel-good foods. Marcia Cardwell, a registered dietitian, says. Unfortunately, a 2021 study from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, shows that this uptick in sweet indulgences may be negatively impacting the mood, sleep cycle, and both physical and mental health of the average American more than we'd necessarily prefer to acknowledge. Research shows that consuming too much added sugar can lead to chronic health issues like type 2 diabetes and heart disease, yes, but it's also highly correlated with mood imbalances that can even lead to depression in the long run, Cardwell says. We asked her to break down the ways that sugar impacts our emotional wellness and how we can stop the cycle. And this is what she came up with. First, we discuss the sugar rush myth. Have you ever reached for a sugary snack hoping for a quick sugar rush between Zoom meetings? The short-term effects of high glucose levels, the main sugar found in your blood, caused by consumption of sucrose, table sugar, on one's mood are that they may decrease alertness and cause higher levels of fatigue within the first hour after eating, Cardwell explains. According to a study from Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews, sugar does not usually improve any aspect of mood, challenging the ideas that sugar could offer a temporary high. Long-term impact. High sugar consumption has been linked to depression and negative mental health symptoms for several years, Caldwell says. Research shows that intake of added sugars over time can have an impact on long-term mental health, whereas lower intake of added sugars may be associated with better mental health. Cardwell explains that some current research outlines several potential reasons why added sugar intake may impact mood. The consumption of added sugars has been associated with increased blood pressure and inflammation, which have both been linked to depression. High sugar diets can lead to rapid blood sugar spikes and crashes, leading to fluctuating hormone levels and mood states. The addiction-like effects of sugar on dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical in the brain, levels might connect frequent sugar intake with depression. So how much sugar is okay? Americans are consuming an average of more than 13% of added sugar per day, exceeding the recommendations of the dietary guidelines for Americans to consume less than 10% of added sugars in total daily calories. By the way, we think that the American Heart Association sugar recommendations are far more healthy, clear, and useful. Major sources include sugar-sweetened beverages, desserts, sweet snacks, and sweetened coffee and tea, Cardwell says. But knowing that added sugar can negatively impact mood doesn't mean you have to swear off the sweet stuff entirely. Humans are born with a preference for sweet taste, and there are healthy ways to cure your sweet craving while keeping blood sugar levels and your mood in check. Instead of that sugary beverage or snack bar, aim to keep your total daily added sugars below 6% of total calories, Cardwell advises. She explains that if you eat 2,000 calories per day, try to keep total added sugars below 120 calories, which is equivalent to 7.5 teaspoons of table sugar. Sugar swaps. Cardwell shares that instead of sugar-sweetened beverage, try infusing water with fresh citrus fruit and herbs, such as lemon, orange, and mint, for a refreshing and hydrating option. Or swap out a sugary snack bar for something higher in protein and healthy fats to help stabilize blood sugar and help you feeling satisfied, like hummus, crackers, peanut butter, sprouted grain toast, or a handful of nuts and a piece of fruit are great options, Cardwell says. According to Cardwell, fruit is naturally sweet and packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, in addition to fiber and water to help keep you hydrated and full. If you like to end your meal with something sweet, try blending frozen fruit like bananas or mango to make a delicious ice cream for a free treat, she recommends. Now, I've been to the Houseware Show in Chicago, and many years, they've displayed a machine that's like a blender for smoothies, but what it is, you put frozen bananas or frozen fruit in there, and it converts it into a smoothie made for that. So it's not expensive either. I think it was like $59, probably cheaper now. That's one way to do it. Also, I might add that stevia, which is a natural substitute for plant substitute for sugar, as well as monk fruit, allulose, and others, are being made with little or no aftertaste now, so that you can add them to little containers you can get in the store, Whole Food, or even Publix, and you can add them to drinks and see if one of those is suitable for your sugar fix. Tracking sugar intake. With added sugars hiding in unsuspecting places like tomato sauce and salad dressings, it can be hard to know how much you're eating with every meal. Cardwell says that food diaries or tracking apps are beneficial for increasing mindfulness around food choices. Because sugar sources are so challenging to pinpoint, I typically refer my clients to the tracking app, Lose It. One app, Lose It. It's a simple tracking tool that can help you learn about the food you're eating every day and allow you to become more aware of your eating habits for a balanced body and mind, Cardwell says. I know there's another app that's really popular now that you can take a barcode reading, and it tells you everything that's in the food and describe what the chemicals mean, describe what the pros and cons of everything you're eating. And that's easy to find in your app store. She also recommends nutrition labels on packaged food products and when looking for added sugars, especially when consuming seemingly healthy foods like breakfast cereal, granola bars, and non-dairy milks. Knowledge is power, and you might notice that your go-to breakfast is packed with added sugar. Swap in alternative foods that contain fewer grams of added sugar, and Cardwell guarantees you'll feel way better throughout your marathon of morning meetings. Now, there's another study that was in Real Simple as well by Jennifer Adams. This one is September 26th of 23, a month later than the other. And Jennifer is a New York City food and lifestyle writer, and she talks about a study that she found linking ultra-processed foods and depression in women. So ice cream, soda, chips, donuts, whatever it may be, we all have comfort foods that we indulge in from time to time. And while it's important to treat ourselves every once in a while, it's equally as crucial that, for the most part, we maintain a balanced diet full of nutrient-dense foods. This entails staying away from the ultra-processed foods. They have been linked to health ailments such as heart disease, diabetes, and unhealthy weight gain. Now, unfortunately, researchers have added depression to that list, thanks to a new study finding a link between ultra-processed foods and this mental health condition. Here's everything you need to know. What happened in the study? From 2003 to 2017, researchers at Harvard Medical School and Massachusetts General Hospital observed the eating habits and mental health changes of over 31,000 mostly white, non-Hispanic women aged 42 to 62. Results from the study, first published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, concluded that women who ate high amounts of ultra-processed foods, particularly foods containing artificial sweeteners, had an increased risk of depression compared to women who ate lower amounts of the variable. At the beginning of the study, all the women who had reported that they were free of depression. Every 4 years, participants were asked to take a survey in which they were asked about their diet and mental health. Researchers then examined the relationship between food and depression levels, while taking into account other factors of the mental health condition, such as age, total caloric intake, body mass index, physical activity, smoking status, menopausal hormone therapy, total energy intake, alcohol, comorbidities, median family income, social network levels, marital status, sleep duration, and pain. All of these were taken into consideration. These findings suggest that greater ultra-processed food intake, particularly artificial sweeteners and artificially sweetened beverages, is associated with increased risk of depression. Now, I'm not sure about, I have to read the study to see more, and it only applied to women, but this is just information. The researchers acknowledge that the results of the study aren't all-encompassing, and that the data doesn't necessarily mean that eating these foods is the cause of depression. Instead, they proposed many possible theories of the link between the two, including the idea that depression and ultra-processed foods feed off each other. If someone is depressed, they may turn to ultra-processed foods for comfort, while the food may contribute to poor mood and health. What foods count as ultra-processed? To be helpful to know. Processed food is any agriculture product that has been changed from its original state, like baby carrots or tofu. Ultra-processed food takes that principle a step further and includes snacks, drinks, ready meals, and many other products created mostly or entirely from substances extracted from foods. The key difference is that processed foods aren't always unhealthy, while ultra-processed foods are. If you look at the ingredient list of any ultra-processed foods, you'll likely find a long list of unfamiliar words. The list may include numerous added ingredients such as sugar, salt, fat, artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives, as well as starches, added sugars, and hydrogenated fats. Examples of foods that contain these ingredients include sodas, processed meats, white bread, candy, ice cream, donuts, sugary cereals, cookies, and potato chips. Why is ultra-processed food linked to depression? Researchers are still unsure of exactly why ultra-processed foods are linked. However, they are theorizing that the ultra-processed foods cause the brain to release neurotransmitters that are also released in depression. Although the mechanism associating ultra-processed foods to depression is unknown, recent experimental data suggests that artificial sweeteners elicit purinergic transmission in the brain, which may be involved in the etiopathogenesis of depression. They wrote in the study about this. So which foods should I be eating? For years, doctors have emphasized the benefits of eating a diet full of good quality proteins, fiber-rich fruits and vegetables, and hearty whole grains. These include foods like lean meats, chicken, turkey breast, seafoods like salmon, tuna, and shrimp, leafy greens like spinach, kale, and arugula, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, whole grains like quinoa, sprouted bread, and brown rice. Now, I spoke last week about more in depth about foods that are good for fighting depression and anxiety and stress. So you might turn to that one. Everything is your choice. You can choose what you plan to do with your body, how you plan to eat, whether you can go through what it takes to not be on meds even and get yourself to a place where you don't need meds. Of course, if you're already there, if you already have these symptoms and you need meds, of course, I'm in favor of doing anything to protect your health, but I'm saying that foods can prevent you from getting there. If you avoid certain foods and eat certain foods, as we said in these 2 weeks, you can keep yourself from going off the rails. Now, in the stores, most stores, Whole Food, Trader Joe's, Publix, they have healthy foods with good fiber, good protein, good nutrients, even some with low carbs that are keto certified. If you try them and you don't like them, you can return them, get your money back. You have no risk whatsoever to try it. So go into a store, look for some things with high protein, high fiber, low carbs even, and just see what you can do to fill your sense of sweetness with things that are sweetened with other things. Now, to my knowledge, there's no bad studies on monk fruit. There's other sweeteners that I think are good as well. Allulose, I don't think has anything bad on it. And stevia is a natural plant, so I don't know about that, but that seems to be good. And they have now stevia products without aftertaste, as I was saying earlier. Erythritol has been okay. There was some question about certain parts of it if you take too much of it, but you'll never take that much of it in a sweetened beverage or a sweetened snack. Try some of these that are artificially sweetened in this. Try some of these that might be healthy. And we're not talking about using the sweeteners that were mentioned before that are bad for you. There are some that have a lot of controversy around them. The blue packet, the yellow packet, even the pink had some controversy, which is over now. But I'm not talking about using Splenda or using the other one. I'm saying there are some new sweeteners that are natural, that are plant-based, that are fine, that will help you to satisfy your craving. If you try it and you like it, you have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. So the only last thing I'd like to end with is if you start your day with a smile and a positive attitude, there's a chance that you won't stress eat. There's a chance that you'll have a positive outlook on things and won't have to eat for the wrong reasons. Doesn't mean something doesn't happen during the day, but at least start your day off right. Find some reason to smile. Find a picture of something. Look at your children if you're married and have kids. Smile about them. Smile about your spouse. Smile about something outside your house that's growing, that you love that it's growing. Find something along the walkway, something as you drive to work that you can smile on, something that brings a smile to your face. I have about 300 pictures of sunrises and sunsets on my Boca CEO Instagram, and you can always look at those if you can't find anything else. But find something, some reason to be happy, some reason to start the day off with the chance that this could be a good day for you. I hope that you find some way of satisfying your cravings without having to resort to ones that will cause you grief. And until next time, this knowledge in your hands, I leave you and bid you goodbye. Have a wonderful day.